Let's preview tonight's Spurs-Sixers game. Bring in a fan guest. We're going to have a fan episode in just a few seconds discussing Wembanyama and the Spurs' improved play.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kansas 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody had a great, restful weekend. We'll get you going right here on Locked On Spurs. Thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. LinkedIn Jobs. Yes, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs that help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so what are we talking about today? Let's preview quickly tonight's Spurs-Sixers game. First time Embiid versus Wembanyama. That'd be fun. And then bring in a fan. We're going to have another fan episode in just a few minutes. Chris Leija will be rejoining us. He's been on here a couple times already. We're going to be discussing with him if fans are buying into this whole notion of improved play from the silver and black and Wemby and the minutes restrictions. And we're discussing that with Chris Leija in just a few seconds. But first, your Spurs tonight tackle the Philadelphia 76ers out in Philadelphia. First time they're meeting this season. And obviously, everybody's looking forward to seeing Wemby versus Joel Embiid. Yeah, it'll be a fun match. So the Spurs come into tonight's game 8-34. Sixers are 28-13. Now, let's rewind the clock here. The Spurs are coming off a road win. Yes, win versus the Wizards, 131-127. Spurs shared the ball that game. 38 assists for the game. Outscored the Wizards 31-27 en route to the late game 12-point deficit comeback win. Kudos to the Spurs. Wemby watch. 24 points, 8 rebounds. Sohan, 23 points, 4 rebounds. Keldon had 19. Vassell had 21. And Trey Jones had 11 points and 12 assists. By the way, his first NBA career win versus his big brother, Wizards' Tyus Jones. So way to go, Trey. For those that are on Jersey Watch, the Spurs will be in their City Edition jerseys tonight in Philadelphia. All right, let's start off with the opposition. Few things got to watch for. The Sixers are deadly at home when they're leading after the first period. So keep it on the scoreboard. If the Sixers are winning, the Sixers are 15-0. So they're undefeated if they're leading after half. So keep that in mind. Now, the Sixers are also in a win streak as well, but in a different way. They recorded 8 consecutive games of more steals than the opposition. So the Spurs really got to value the ball. The Spurs have been really good about that over the last stretch of games. I've written about it. I've talked to several of the players about it, from Doug McDermott to even Zach Collins, and he said, hey, this team is really valuing the ball more. And at least McDermott told me that they're leaning more on Trey Jones to kind of calm the waters, and they're becoming more cohesive. So Sixers are stealing the ball. Spurs are preserving the ball. So keep an eye on that little side matchup there. And speaking of the Sixers at home, they've won 3 straight in a row. So home's been very kind to Philadelphia. Now, on the Spurs side of things, the Spurs, not a good record versus teams with an above 500 record. They're 2-21 this season with teams with a winning record. So keep that in mind. And how important is Wemby and his blocking ability? Very important. The Spurs are 0-9 this season when recording fewer blocks than their opposition. So, defense means a lot. If they're blocking shots, Wemby, well, then, the Spurs could be in for a big surprise, maybe a big win. Who knows? We'll see what happens tonight out in Philadelphia. That is your quick Spurs-Sixers preview. Coming up next, we have a fan episode. Chris Leija will be joining us. We're going to be discussing Wemby, minutes restriction, and if the Spurs fans are buying this whole, their improved play of late. Discussing that and more coming up next on Locked On Spurs. First, I want to talk to you about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Look, at the start of the new year, every small business is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll make my business and take it to the next level in 2024? That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Look, I perused the so many jobs out there, and trust me, there's a lot. they're looking for qualified candidates like yourself, me, or whoever it may be. LinkedIn Jobs is a place where employers go are looking for that talent. So yeah, it's a very helpful tool. So LinkedIn isn't just another popular job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have so many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality candidates and hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time to process or have the resources or just the time to hire. Thankfully, that's where LinkedIn comes in. The process is very intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA, and post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. It's morphin' time.
And we are now finally joined by our fan guest right here on Locked On Spurs. You know him, you love him. He is the big guy with MCS General Contracting. He is Chris Leija making his return to Locked On Spurs. Chris, welcome back.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me back, man. It's always an honor and a privilege, man, to be on the show. So I appreciate
man. We'll talk about MCS in a while. You talk about your business later on. You look kind of intimidating though. It's so weird. It's like you're right? So intimidating.
I know. I'm trying to let some people know, like, hey, I'm a big guy. I'm kind of scary,
Yeah, exactly. Make sure to follow him on X at Chris or C Leija, I should say, #3. You see it right there in the bottom of the screen. He'll talk to you all things Spurs, sports, politics. Yeah. Dive into that waters with him. You did, and much, much more. But as y'all know, and he's done this plenty of times. But for those of you who do not know, so the idea here is we bring in a fan occasionally, and they give us the pulse of the fan base. What are fans talking about? What's on their mind? What's getting them upset? What's making them smile? And there's a couple of things that have really been on the Spurs fans' minds late, and that is the whole improved play from the Spurs. Is that really true? And let me tell you the thing. The last segment we're going to do with Chris, Wemby and the minutes restrictions, that has fans a little riled up. But first, we're going to be talking about the improved play. Now, Chris, there's this chatter among fans, media that, okay, the Spurs record may not be good, but their improved play of late. So I got to ask you, Chris, are Spurs fans buying this? Do they really believe there's improved play on the court from San Antonio?
Depends on what side you want to talk to, man. You want to talk to the Captain America side or the Iron Man side of it?
Oh, man.
There's a whole Spurs
Civil War. Yeah.
It's a whole civil war right now, man. You got some fans that are super positive about things. So they're looking at this as, yes, they're getting better. Hey, we're not getting blown out by 30 points anymore, right? So that is a huge improvement. Defense is getting better. The offense is flowing well. People are liking the changes that have been made with Trey Jones starting. So that's always a good thing, having an actual point guard on the court. So, and then you have the other side that they don't care. They want to, the improvement they want to see is wins, right? And that's it. At the end of the day, for some fans, it's about how many wins are the Spurs getting, right? So some of them are still like, no, it's not enough, and I know we'll get into it later about the Wemby restrictions. So that's one thing that some fans are using against the improvement side of it, right? But overall, man, it's split again. I mean, most things that come down to the Spurs, which fans, they're split down the middle. There is no one side has more than the other. You're either on team you're mad or your team you're happy, right?
You're like team trust the process, team we don't trust the process.
Yeah, team let's go get any and I get it because I'm kind of getting to the point where I do want to see a trade happen to make this team take the next step. We've talked about this on some of the spaces that we do on Twitter X, and looking at the team after last year's trade deadline, because that's when you lost Pirtle, that's when you lost Richardson. So that's the team that we need to judge this year's team on, because it's almost identical, right? You have of course, you have Wemby as a big factor here that came in and was added to the team. But how many wins did that team get after the trade deadline?
Yeah.
I think it was 7. So some fans are saying, well, if we get 8 this year with this team, then it's an improvement. And some people are like, yeah, great, but that's still only 8 wins. I mean, you want to see the team get up there into the 20s. I mean, maybe Vegas was right, you know?
Yeah. Chris, I look at this team, and statistically, yes, there are areas of improvement.
Right.
Like, believe it or not, they're winning the third quarter now. Remember that was the whole, wait till the third quarter, the wheels fall off. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah,
Then,
for sure.
Then there's you mentioned about them not getting just blown out. So that's another thing. Do you think this whole improved play, collectively, the fans do see it? Like, why is there such an extreme, though? I mean, there is statistically proof that the Spurs have gotten better, but yet Spurs fans are at civil war still. I thought the whole thing was, hey, that everybody can agree upon is as long as they get better, and they are, but there's still civil war.
Yeah, so you have some fans that from before the season even started, they wanted to see trades happen. They wanted to see high level veterans be brought in, because when you get a generational talent as Wemby, you want to see him surrounded with solid players. You just don't want to see him surrounded by just anybody. So some fans, while they see the improvement, they're still like, what could have been if the Spurs front office had done a trade before the season? People still bring up, hey, what if we had brought in Damian Lillard? How different would the team be today? And it's a lot of what ifs, right? In Universe 671, maybe we do have Dame Lillard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
Are winning, and they have, instead of it being 7-32 or whatever it is, it's 32-7.
Right.
The one thing people do notice is I've noticed that when Wemby's not on the court, due to his restrictions, it's one of those things where it's the team is competing, but they still can't close off the game because they still can't close it out. And that's one thing a lot of fans still gripe about, is that if we had veteran leadership, right, and we're losing these games by 2, 3, 4, 5 points, if we had a veteran leader on the court, then maybe we would be winning these games, and maybe we would have 10, 12, 15 wins. So some people still see it that way, where they see the improvement, but man, that first 20 games of the season, really put fans in this weird spot where they were just they were so upset, which I get, because as Spurs fans, we're used to a certain type of culture when it comes to winning. So when they're not seeing that, and it's this bad, or it was that bad, it's hard to get over it still to this point, because a lot of people still say, well, look at what happened with the Jeremy Sohan experiment. Had we not done that, if this is the team we're seeing now after after the new year is when we really started seeing these improvements, they're like, what would have been had they started Trey Jones from the beginning? What improved? I mean, like I said, it could be we have 12 wins or 15 wins. Who knows? Maybe we'd had 20, but that's why some fans are still, they see the improvement, but it's still not enough, because they feel like we've wasted so much of Wemby's rookie season to start off with. So
yeah. And you add the fact too that this generation of Spurs fans grew up with nothing but winning.
Yeah.
That's what it was. They grew up with that.
Yeah.
And there were decades of the big three and a little bit of Kawhi and the bridge with the DeMar and LaMarcus. Yeah. And then now this. So it's a big dramatic drop, and I get why this generation of younger Spurs fans are reacting the way they are. They want to see excellence, and I get that. You want to see excellence from every day. I know you want to see excellence from your employees at MCS. You expect that. Yeah. But you also understand when you're bringing new hires, there's a learning curve for that.
There's a learning curve. It takes time.
Yeah.
There's training to be done. There's practices to be done. There's you have to learn certain different things. So yeah, I mean. I've kind of accepted that this season's kind of a wash. I'm kind of
it is. It's a wash. Yeah, it's a wash,
because I made bets before the season started. Thinking we got this. We have a chance at winning stuff. Yeah. The only bet that still has a chance maybe is I had put money on Wemby winning Defensive Player of the Year.
No, that's good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
You never know. You never know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, but you personally. Do you like what you're seeing now on the court versus what you saw at the start of the season?
Oh, I mean, definitely see an improvement. I like
Okay.
it. I like the direction we're going in. It just, I'm kind of one of those fans that's like, man, I wish maybe then that experiment didn't happen in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was one that was saying, you know what, Jeremy doing this is maybe good for him, and I was kind of a fan that was like, let's see what happens. And it was hard because you go 3-17 to start the season. You're like, oh man, like that's just rough. And I was like, you know what, it is what it is. You can't change it, accept it, move on from it. They're making adjustments. I wish we did have some veteran leadership on the court. A solid point guard. I'm not saying Trey Jones isn't a good point guard. I just don't know if he's that starting point guard that we need. Maybe as that second unit point guard, he'd be great. And if he's coming off the bench, following up a good, veteran or a good leader, somebody that has, experience, then I think maybe he could flourish even more. But when it was Jeremy starting at point guard, it was difficult because you're trying to take a team that's losing by 15-20 and you're trying to bring them back up. Whereas now, whoever's coming off the bench behind him, sometimes it's a 5-point, deficit. It's not too bad. They can work with that. Trying to come back from a 15-20 point deficit is hard for anybody. Especially somebody that doesn't have the experience. But I'm keeping my hopes up to see some more improvement. We'll see if the Spurs do any sort of trades here in the before the trade deadline is up. And if they do, great. If they don't, well, we'll see what the offseason holds. But I mean, let's just roll with it, I guess, at this point. I mean, what's the point of getting all worked up about it? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think at this point of the season, Spurs fans collectively should understand they ain't going to the play-in tournament. There's no playoffs.
It's going to take a lot.
It's going to be 82 games and the season's done. But I do expect the team to be active in the off season. There, I better see. I'm like, all right, Brian Wright, Spurs. What are we doing? What are we doing?
You're Brian Wright, not Brian Wrong. So come on, buddy. Let's do something, right?
Yeah, exactly. He is Chris Leija. Make sure to follow him on X at CLeija3. He is with MCS General Contracting. He'll talk about that in just a few minutes when we get back. We're not done with Chris. We're going to talk about minutes restriction. No, not for Chris. No, he's not a minute restriction. But for Wembanyama. Spurs fans are not liking it. For the most part, I'm going to ask Chris why Spurs fans are upset. Don't they see the big picture? And more. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs. This episode is sponsored by and brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get your way to being the best self you can possibly be. Look, you know about those New Year's Eve resolutions, I should say, and you want to stick with them. You want to improve on yourself, and I get that. But what about the stuff that you're already doing right? What about the stuff that you have been improving upon and you want to keep on going? That's where online therapy can help, like BetterHelp. Look, so what if you also want to organize that one space in your room, or you want to organize your garage? What do you want to learn to keep on your tasks, keep your goals in mind? BetterHelp can help you with that. Therapy helps you find strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really, really stick. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Look, I get it. Perhaps you think it's only for like people with major trauma in their life. No, BetterHelp is for everything from just learning to self-improve to major trauma. So you want to give BetterHelp a try. So celebrate the progress you have already made. Go to BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get yourself 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. I also want to talk to you about FanDuel. You want to go to FanDuel right now, everybody. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. What more do you need? Go get that FanDuel app right now. That app is so easy to use. So many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can even make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and that's the best way to find the popular parlays. I mean, from the odds to the lines. I mean, they got it all over at at FanDuel. They get that and so much more, like just having fun this entire sports season. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon right now and make your first bet a layup. Look, the NFL playoffs are still going on, right? There's still time to get in the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet right now. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs with the Incredible Hulk himself. Wait, is that the Hulk? Is that Bruce Banner? Man, Bruce. What's going on there, Hulk? You let your beard grow.
I know, man. I got to go get a trim. It's getting kind of it's keeping my face warm with these. Man, last week was brutal with this cold, man. It did help, though. It did help.
Is. Unfortunately, he is not the Hulk. He is Chris Leija, but he definitely built like the Hulk.
That's right.
Make sure to follow him on X at CLeija3. He's with MCS General Contracting. He'll talk about that in just a few seconds. But, you know, Chris, another thing that's been on Spurs fans' mind is this whole Wemby minutes restriction. Several games already, 24, 27, and done. Doesn't matter if the Spurs are in the game, have a chance to get the win or getting blown out. He is pulled. Spurs fans, I think from my point of view, collectively, they're not too thrilled about this. What are you hearing? What are you seeing from the pulse of the fan base regarding the minutes restrictions for Wemby?
They're over it, man. I think we all are over it because you're watching him put up these numbers and he's doing it on a minutes restriction. And I feel like, you watch his first half and he's kind of slow out the gate, takes him a while to, really get there. Then start the third quarter, fourth quarter, he just goes off. And it's one of those things where you start to think, well, what if he wasn't on a minutes restriction? What if he played, 15 minutes in the first half, and then the second half, he plays another 15, and then he really goes off. And we just saw him do a triple-double in 20 minutes?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, what's he going to do when he's playing 30, 35 minutes? One day he's going to play 40 minutes. It just depends on what's going on. Some fans are so I saw some tweets, and one of them made sense. One of the fans said, hey, they did this with Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan played with 2 busted up knees until he was in his 40s. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. But he tweaked his ankle how long ago? And it wasn't like he tweaked his ankle and he was set down right away. No, he tweaked his ankle, he played, and did it again. So maybe that's why the Spurs are taking this approach as to, okay, let's be careful. But at the same time, you just saw Collins be out for a couple weeks, and he plays in a back-to-back. So fans are like, what are we doing? Some fans are saying, hey, here we go again. We're tanking. We're just losing on purpose. We're not trying. And some fans say, well, maybe they're doing this because what's the point of playing him? 30 minutes. If we're not being competitive to get into the play-in or the playoffs, obviously, so why even risk it? But at the same time, he's not building up that cardio. That's different because when he was in France, he was playing once a week. Here he's playing 2, 3, 4 times a week, depending on the schedule. So how is he going to get into a rhythm of things? How is he going to get his cardio up if he's being restricted with no back-to-backs and a minute restriction? On Friday, we lost by what? Was 4? I can't remember. It was 4 or 5
points. Yeah, it was close.
It was close. And then, okay, it's Charlotte. People are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Man, every game matters. Every game is important to his chemistry with his teammates and how he improves himself. So for me, like I said, when I saw Collins playing in a back-to-back, I was just like, really? He just came off of how many games off with an injury, and you're going to do that with him? And I think it was Bear County. They were like, oh, well, some people are going to say, well, Zach Collins is not a generational talent. He's just Zach Collins. And I'm like, I get that. I know you want to preserve Wemby, but, I mean, come on, man. It's getting kind of tiring, kind of old. We're closing these games, and then he's pulled, and you're like, why pull him if we're only down by 2-3 points? We have a chance to win this game. Let's try to win as many games as possible. Why? Because apparently when it comes to these professional or ex-NBA players, the biggest thing that separates him and Chet is that the Spurs aren't winning games. How can the Spurs win games if Wemby's out? He's missed 6 games, and they're 0-6 in those 6 games. Who knows what the record would be?
Do you get maybe why the Spurs are treating him like a delicate, fine piece of china right now because they're afraid of his body breaking down early. Do you also think that maybe this is part of the Kawhi thing? Because remember the whole Kawhi health issue. A lot of people speculate that maybe the Spurs botched that aspect. Do you think that has a little bit of something to do with his whole minutes restriction, or just simply this that he's just to want to make sure he's safe and okay?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think the ultimate could be?
I wish I could be a fly on the wall in the Spurs medical office.
Too.
Just to see what they're saying, what they're really seeing. Because as fans, sometimes I have to remind myself as a fan, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know what that X-ray showed the first time he rolled his ankle. I don't know what's really going on. And some fans have to understand that too. We don't know what's really going on. It's just as fans, when we went from last year to this year, we were hoping, we were told by Pop we were going to see wins, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we're not seeing it because Wemby's being restricted and he's not playing these back-to-backs. It's frustrating. I get both sides of it sometimes. Sometimes I get on the side of, no, let him play. Like, who cares? Because you never know when it comes to injuries, really. I mean, I get it. You're trying to preserve him. You want him to have a 20-year career. I get that. But we just don't know what could happen. I mean, you look at players like Derrick Rose, and he was so explosive, out the get, and he, rookie of the year and whatnot, and his knee just gave out. And then his other knee gave out. And, I mean, he's still playing in the league to this day, so it's not impossible for somebody to get hurt, recover, rehab, and then come back and continue to play. I mean, we saw Tim Duncan with braces on his knees, I feel like, since – like 2000 and on to his career, he had 2 braces on his knees, and it's like he could do it. But it's one of those things, man. Like I see it sometimes from like in my field of work is every generation is different. The body isn't the same anymore. Granted, now we have so many more advances in science and in health that who knows. I mean, people get, new knees at this point and new hips and all sorts of things. So I just want to see him playing a back-to-back just to see what happens.
Yeah, and also, too, I get it. He is the Spurs' major investment. He is their biggest asset. He's generating money for the franchise.
Yeah, he is.
From jerseys to tickets to T-shirts. On the road, too, the Spurs still rank one of the higher attended road games because of Wemby.
Right.
So you want to preserve him, but yes, I agree with that. I think I want to see how he handles a back-to-back and not just one, like a few. Right. Let's just see how he handles that. But I just think he's the new toy in the toy chest. They don't want to dirty. It's like you get the new sneakers. You want to put the crease on it. You don't want to put a scuff on it.
Right.
You just want to make sure it's preserved as best you can. So we'll see. Look, I'm frustrated too. I think if you put a Wemby out there versus Charlotte, I think they probably could have. They win that game. Yeah, they win that game. And there's been several games since he's been on minutes restriction that they could have won.
Right.
Because the Chicago game maybe was another one. But yeah, I understand their viewpoint, but I also understand the Spurs fans' viewpoint. It's like, hey, this is the guy that we're wearing jerseys for, and we're buying tickets to go see.
Spending a lot of money,
be home or away. Then, they announced that he's sitting on the back-to-back. I mean, fans now ask, okay, which one? So we know which ticket to buy.
Right.
But I mean, as a businessman, you got to understand maybe the business approach to this.
Yeah. From
the Spurs point of view is like, I'm pretty sure if MCS got themselves a new truck, you're going to want to make sure that thing's okay, right?
I mean, that's why you do your routine maintenance and whatnot, and you take care of it. But you're right. Sometimes, I try to, that's one of the benefits that I have, thankfully, as business owner with my brother, is that we sometimes see things a little differently. But then the fan side of me comes out, and it's like, no, I want to see him play. I want to see him go out there and just dominate. I'm just really sick and tired of the whole rookie of the year conversation where because he's not playing as many games or he's missing back-to-backs or he's doing
hasn't even won a rookie of the month yet.
Man, the wait and see, that's the thing, right? This month of January, what was it? How many games has it been? Almost 8-9 games this month, I think, so far. What did he say after that Celtics game? Every game moving forward is a statement game. And he's been balling out. I mean, I don't know if he played against Charlotte, what he would have done. Who you never know, right? It's always
right.
What if? But who knows? Maybe this is the month that he finally wins that first Rookie of the Month award. Because I mean, to me, it's an individual award. I can't look at the team wins.
But the way they spin it is
right.
How did the individual impact the team or something like that? They'll spin it like that.
But look at how. So I saw whenever they posted the stat of him when he doesn't play in those 6 games, how much the opponent scores and how many blocks they get per game. When he's playing, they hold their opponents to less points. When he's playing, they almost double in team blocks. So that should tell you right then and there the impact he makes on the team when he plays and he doesn't play. Now I get it. They're not getting the wins, but it's not completely solely on him. I mean, he's going out there and doing everything he can. If you look at his individual stats, I feel like that should be enough to carry him to a Rookie of the Year award. But man, now I just don't know. I mean, you can blame Ben Simmons for changing the way they look at Rookie of the Years because he was the first one. Right? He missed his rookie season. He came back in the second year and he won Rookie of the Year. And from there on, it's been one of those things where now it's, he got injured. And I'm like, I get that. But a player that's injured and is still working with NBA coaches. I mean, Chet, for example, works with the greatest shot doctor of all time. Like, he's improved when he didn't
counts.
play. It should count for something, but I'm just a regular old fan, man, and that's it. I'm not an NBA expert. I'm not one of the media guys, or I didn't play in the NBA, so what do I know?
He is Chris Leija with MCS General Contracting. Chris, what's going on with MCS?
I tell you what, I'm glad this cold is over with.
I bet.
Being out there in 20-degree weather and under, it's not fun. But no, man, we're off to a good start this year. Man, we are working on some crazy pools in Bernie, building bridges for pools, random things. But yeah, everything's going good, man. We're blessed. We're healthy. We're strong, and we're getting after it. So that's all we can, be thankful for, really, and all I could really ask for. As long as the business is moving along and work's coming in, let's get after it. I'm hoping that I can pick up some more work on my commercial side of things. Right now, my residential side is what runs the company for the most part, but I'm ready to do some 20,000 square foot slabs, parking lots, and all sorts of big things.
And how can
go ahead?
No, I was gonna say, like, how can San Antonio check out what you all got on MCS?
Yeah, man, you can find us on Twitter, MCS_GC, and then you can look us up on Instagram, MCS General Contracting. You can see all the work we've done. I have, videos of stuff that we've done in the past, from commercial to residential. You need to do a new home? I'm your guy for that slab. You don't want to go with just anybody, any Joe Schmo off the street. If you want the best, you call the best. All right. You reach out to MCS, and that's what you're going to get. It's the most bang for your buck. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. But by the way, I'm pretty sure you can tell behind me from the nerd wall we got going right now. This spot actually was Clayface, but he left for some reason when he found out that you were coming on. I don't know why.
I'm an intimidating guy, man.
He said, I gotta go because I don't know if I can compete with concrete because clay is better.
The diamond hard concrete, man. That's all I can say about that, man. Like I said, I don't mean to brag and whatnot, but we're one of the best in the game, man. And people can try to compete with us, but it's no matchup, man. It's no matchup whatsoever.
Look at that. Flexing. He's just flexing right now, everybody. No, but seriously, MCS is one of the best in the business. Make sure to follow Chris. If you have any questions about his services over at MCS, make sure to hit him up on Twitter. Is probably the best way. X, I should say, the best way, at CLeija3. Do that right now. And then, of course, at MCS_GC.
Yes,
either way, they'll get a hold of you and talk to you about how they can help you out. He is Chris Leija, once again, repping the fan base on Locked On Spurs. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. Ken Spy Plus app, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. The list goes on and on. Locked On Spurs now has a 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. From the national host, the local host, the regional host, we're all there 24/7 a day. And covering all things sports. So go check it out on YouTube. Subscribe right now. Locked On Sports Today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'd like to recap the Spurs game versus the Sixers. That's going to be fun to see how Wemby goes up against Joel Embiid. That'd be fun to watch. Hopefully the Spurs get a W. But for Chris Leija, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.